Welcome, everyone, to the Dr. Blue Duck podcast. And today we have hilarious Zane here with us. And if you don't know him, he has over 64,000 followers on TikTok and over 1 million likes. He's just beginning to blow up on the platform. And hilarious Zane, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Excited to be here. It's the first time I've done a podcast, so I'm super excited for this.
Nice. And not just a podcast, and a video podcast so everyone can see us. Isn't that kind of cool?
Super cool. Super cool.
So, how did you get started on this TikTok social media gaming journey where you are? I mean, you got followers, you have people that are involved, you're on, multiple social media platforms, you are doing it and you are blowing up, but you're doing it while you're talking about Jesus. Can you kind of tell us how you got into this?
Yeah, absolutely. I was somebody who, when I first joined TikTok, it was right around, start of the pandemic. I was one just stuck inside all day, wanted to scroll some videos. When I first started my TikTok journey, I was definitely clout chasing as much as possible. I was jumping on the trends, just posting videos like crazy. I did get to about, I want to say it was about 10 or 15,000 followers just from having videos, go viral. Once I hit around that, I believe it was around 25 to 30,000 mark, I felt conviction in my heart, really. I noticed myself, I was just constantly consumed by the content, trying to find the next viral video. I was like, how can I monetize this? How can I make as much money as possible? Just all the things that you really shouldn't be setting your heart on if you're following Christ. And so around about 30,000 followers, I actually found somebody who was streaming Fortnite and they were praying. Shout out to my buddy Lazar. He used to go by OG Fortnite terms. He explained Christianity in Fortnite terms, which I thought was super cool. And it really just inspired change in my heart to be like, you have this platform, you have, almost 30,000 followers. What are you doing with it? You're not doing anything substantial. You're not being yourself. And it really just sparked a fire in me that I was like, I love Jesus. Why am I almost hiding that aspect of myself? And why am I not glorifying him with this?
Yeah, and you say Fortnite, Christianity, those two things together. It's kind of interesting how, if you really look at Fortnite, you can kind of see that. I play Fortnite on Thursday nights with my life group from church, and we were playing. And one time we added this other guy to play with us, and what we noticed is that we were dying a lot because we were playing squads. And then we had this guy, and he just ran out and just started chasing people while we stayed back as a team. And got killed and we eliminated and we all got eliminated. And it's like there's some encouraging Christian principles in Fortnite. Don't go it alone. Don't go out there by yourself. Stay with your team. Stay with your brothers and sisters in Christ. So it's interesting. I mean, you have the storm. There's all these elements in Fortnite that you can definitely see some Christian principles in, and you're doing that. You're playing video games, you're talking about Jesus, and you're doing it boldly. Like, I lost my train of thought right there. That's just cool, man. Yeah, yeah. Expand a little bit more upon that.
Yeah. So after seeing the way you can use your platform to just, be open and bold about your faith, it really inspired me. Again, kind of just had that personal conviction with Christ where it was just like, this isn't you. I wasn't necessarily being like filthy in any of my language, but I also was just, not being myself. I was clearly just in it for monetization and trying to see how I could be as viral as possible. And once I had that conviction and the Lord was like, hey, like, look at what he's doing with his platform. You have the numbers already. Why aren't you doing something similar? And so I started off very slow. I started just implementing a prayer at the end of my stream. So I would still stream, play Fortnite, have a good time, but at the end I was praying. And then it just progressed to where now when I go live, I'm just very bold. I'm like, hey, I'm a Christian. Ask me some questions, because that's the whole premise of the stream. Yes, we're still having fun. We're still playing Fortnite. We're trying to get wins, but I want to talk about Jesus. Whether that's something that people like sometimes or not, that's just what I feel I've called to do. And so much is so that, I actually refer to it as a digital ministry. It is something that I have worked with a couple church planters I've gone actually out to California, done a discovery center where you actually kind of pitch your idea of a ministry to other church founders, and they let you know if that's something they could see viable as a potential church plant. And that was something super cool because when you bring this up to people who are normally planting physical churches, you tell them, hey, my ministry is on TikTok. They're like, wow, like let me know more about that. That's insane. The overwhelming support from people who are actually in the ministry and serving in a church is so phenomenal. So many people all around my circle, especially my wife, my family, and every church goer I can tell about this is so supportive. They're like, we need the gospel online, especially on social media.
Yeah. And it's so important to not get caught up in that rat race of chasing viral trends or chasing viral videos, because kind of the lie that you hear people talk about is, man, you can make money online and all you have to do is just post a video every now and then. But when you really get sucked into it, you're not just posting a video every now and then. Each little short you're doing might take 45 minutes or an hour just to research and to put together in the perfect little package. And you're doing that one or two times a day, plus making long form content. And it becomes a thing that requires a whole lot of your time, a whole lot of your focus. Your free time is just endlessly scrolling, trying to find more trends, things that you could apply, things that you could do. And it really just becomes a rat race to a certain degree when you're just doing it for fame, if you're just doing it for chasing the next viral trends. But it's cool what you're talking about, kind of stepping back from that and just being really who you are and being honest with yourself, honest with your viewers. And I think that's probably why a lot of people like watching you. And it's like if I heard this before, if everyone likes you, in reality, no one really likes you. It's like people, you need some people who like absolutely love you and some people who aren't fond of you. That's
Yeah.
the way every real successful person is. I mean, no one's really just loved by everyone. And if they really are, they're not really loved by everyone. So I can understand you getting some criticism. I can understand people getting on your channel and saying some maybe, offensive or hateful things, but we've seen that for many, many years. We saw that in the epistles with the disciples and all the early Christians being persecuted because they were bearing the name of Christ, and we see it today as well. So I always like to ask this question to some of my viewers is, what's something that you or an experience that you've kind of have gone through as a believer, as a Christian, and you have gotten through it? Have you ever experienced anything that was pretty difficult?
Yeah, this is something that I've talked a little bit about on my streams. I've never gone super into specifics. I won't go super into specific detail today as well, but it was a rather traumatic event for me and just people around me and my family. I was about 12, 13 years old. And we experienced this traumatic event. And it wasn't that I stopped believing in God or that I had lost my faith. In reality, it was I felt hurt. I was angered. I was still pretty young. Again, I'm 12, 13 years old at this point. I don't understand the concept of even if you are a believer in Christ, there's still people who can come and try to hurt you. That was something I struggled with for a little bit, and I hear it in my stream as well, which is why I think it's important to at least tell part of this testimony to people because they're like, well, why do bad things happen if I believe in God? And so, I was one of those people. I had something traumatic happen. I stopped going to church, stopped reading my Bible, stopped praying as much as I did. Just kind of put God on the back burner. It was like, God, I know you're there, but I'm just not talking to you right now. And this went on for a couple years. I was struggling pretty hard with depression, anxiety, and at about I want to say it was about 15 years. So now after about 2 to 3 years had passed after this event, my mom being the amazing woman of God that she is, the spiritual leader of my house for a lot of my life. She was trying to get me back into church, trying to encourage me to, keep up my faith, restore that relationship with God. And eventually, she saw that I was just had no interest in it. I was not trying to go to church. I was finding any excuse not to go. She finally came up to me and just gave me an ultimatum. She told me, look, you come to this youth group tonight with me. You go to youth group. I'll go to Bible study, and if you absolutely hate it, I'll never ask you to go to church again." And I was like, "This is a pretty sweet deal. Like I, I can get my mom off my back." And I, I had the full intention to just have the worst time, so I could just not be asked to go to church again.
Yeah.
And I think it's so amazing and so powerful how God moves in our lives to he saw that I was going to do everything in my will to try to make it a bad time so I could not continue to pursue him, and he wasn't going to let that happen. The plan was I was going to go into the youth group, sit in the very back, and just not speak to anybody, then leave as soon as it ended. I walked into that room and I was greeted by the youth pastor who brought me over to three young men who were around my age, and they just treated me like I had been there for years. Just to flash forward a little bit to show you how impactful that little meeting of just people warm welcoming me, treating me like I was family at the very beginning. Those three gentlemen were actually my best men at my wedding,
No.
groomsmen. So, it was a total life changer for me because it was a pivotal moment where I tried to make it as hard as possible to get back to my relationship and with God, and God was like, "Here's some amazing people in your life, and they're going to bring you back to Christ, bring me back to my relationship with Christ." Encouraged me, and still great friends with all of them today. And that was the moment that I came back for my faith, and it wasn't easy. It still took me years to overcome kind of that trauma that we had, but now I feel like I am definitely in a better place than I've ever been with my relationship with God.
Yeah. And I think if we really think about it, we look at the earth, we look at the stars, the sun, we look at the mathematics that's involved, how everything is just perfectly orchestrated. If humans are really honest with themselves, they would probably say that there is a God. And the next question is God a good God? And I feel like that's a question that even Christians sometimes struggle with. It's like we know God, we know there's a God, but is he a good God if he allows these traumatic things to happen in our life? And this last year, 2025, we had two family deaths. And I'm kind of like you. I can't even talk about one of them right now because I'm just not able to yet. And when we talked to our son, our not 5-year-old son about this, he asked, "Why did this person have to die?" And we were just kind of like, "We don't know, son. We don't know." And then it shocked me in what he said. He said, "It's because of that snake, right?" And I was like, "My gosh." And I was like, "Yes, yes, yes, that's why." And he was talking about what he learned in church, that the snake came to Adam and Eve and deceived them, and God created the world, or the Garden of Eden, a place for humans to be without sin, without death, without decay. And because of the sin, that's the serpent or Satan, whatever you want to call it, you know, Eve and Adam into having or partaking in. It's that sin is why bad things happen to good people. And the fact that my 5-year-old son had the answer to a question that many mature or experienced believers really struggle with just blew my mind. Why do bad things happen? Because there's sin in this world, because this is a fallen state, because my body is sinful. It is not, and I'm not in my glorified body. This is a fallen state, a fallen body that I'm in. And I'm going to get old. My body is going to fail and I'm going to die. The mortality rates of every human being is 100%.
Yeah.
Every single person is going to die. That is a fact of reality. So it's like, but why? Not because of God, not because God's mean or uncaring. It's because we as humans have failed and there is sin in this world. And this is not the way that God wanted it to be. Sometimes we have like Disney movies like The Lion King that come out and they try to glorify this whole thing and they try to make it seem like, oh, it's the circle of life. And they add like a nice song to it. And it's supposed to be, oh, this is pretty. It's just, part of death is beautiful because it's part of the circle of life. But if anyone's really researched death, there is nothing beautiful about death. And if people really look what happens to the human body when we die, it's not beautiful. And it's not a good thing. It's not a pretty thing. God hates it. We should hate it. It's the only good thing about our death is that we get to be with the Father as believers. So it's not a good thing. We should be upset with death, and that helps us yearn for the day where there will be no death, there will be no decay. And that struggle that you talk about is a common one. It's one I think if we live long enough, unfortunately you were 13 when you experienced it, but we live long enough, every single person, every believer as well, is going to be faced with that question, why did this happen? And that's the answer. The answer from my 5-year-old son, because of that snake.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really amazing and powerful. I feel like that's a question even now that I get while I'm streaming is, well, why is there this in the world? Why does God allow this to happen? And that's something we do refer back to a lot is, I think, not to give the enemy any power because ultimately God has all the power,
Yep.
but I think so often we say, well, why did God allow this to happen? Like, why did the enemy attack us? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think that's something. There's also, I think sometimes there's parts of it where we also just don't know God's will. We don't know His plan for this world, and we may think it is a bad thing. We don't know what God's intention behind everything is.
Yeah. And what's so cool is that God can take those bad things and he can make them be for his glory. He can turn them into something new.
Yeah, absolutely.
And something good. Now, Hilarious Zane, a couple more questions here. One, how did you come up with the name Hilarious Zane?
Yeah. So when I had first created my social medias accounts, I was like, I think I was Deadpool the comedian on YouTube for a while. I wore a Deadpool mask because I didn't want to show my face, and I just made little skits on YouTube and stuff. Eventually, I kind of branched out from just the Deadpool because that's not who Deadpool's his own character. I didn't want to be Deadpool, so I came up with my own kind of tag. I was originally Hilarious Happenings. I really liked just kind of the alliteration sound of things, a double H. And then even more recently, when I started actually streaming and talking about God and making that my main focus or my content, I was like, hilarious happenings just didn't fit. I want to tie my name to this because I want people to know I am bold in Christ, and I don't want people to think that I'm shying from my faith and hiding behind a screen name. I want them to know that this is this is really who I am. I really am somebody who loves Christ and pursues Christ, and I gotta put Zane in there to let them know that it's coming from Zane. It's not coming from a brand or a company.
That's great. Now you said you're married. How long have you been married for?
I have been married for it'll be 3 years this year. So we're at 2 and 8 months right now. 2 and 9 months.
Do you guys have any kids at all?
No, no, not yet. That is something we do. We do want kids. We're praying for kids, but not right now. Not right now.
Yeah. And is streaming right now, is TikTok, social media, is this your full-time job right now? Or is this something you're still doing, like maybe part-time or on the side?
Yeah, I had when I had tried to make this kind of a ministry and went and pitched the idea for it. The idea was to make this a full-time job. Um, the only thing is I didn't want to rely on my fans, my supporters to, be the ones paying my rent. And so right now I am actually working two jobs and going to school on top of it. And this is just something I do on the couple free hours I have before I have to go to sleep.
Yeah. And can you tell us what you're majoring in?
Yeah, I'm actually getting my wife is if she sees this podcast, she's gonna be like, he always gets it wrong. I am getting a bachelor's in Christian studies with
Cool.
an emphasis in biblical foundations. It's
Nice.
kind of it's kind of a mouth blurb, so sometimes I switch them around. The plan though would also to then go in and get an MBA for dual enrollment, which would then be my master's in business administration with an emphasis in Christian leadership, just to make sure that I hit all the marks to start my own church one day.
Yeah. It's always kind of confusing when you like say your degree out loud. Like my last degree is a doctorate in worship studies with an emphasis in pastoral counseling. So it's like, wait, what? So what do you do? I teach high school art, but That that's what I studied, and I liked it a lot. So, and what we're running out of time here. So, something that you can what's something you can share with your viewers that they just don't know about you? Maybe like a random fact or something that they just would not normally know.
Oh, man, that is a tough one. I feel like I'm pretty open about my life, with things that I can share. Everyone knows I'm a huge Marvel fan. I'm not afraid of my faith, and you guys know I love Jesus. Talk about fishing. I love to fish as well.
There's something.
Yeah, yeah. Fishing is something I really enjoy to do on my free time as well, with what little free time I do have. But yeah, I mean, nothing too secret over here. I love Jesus, love fishing, love gaming.
Well, you love fishing, and when if you read Matthew chapter 4, towards the end of it, Jesus calls his disciples to be fishers of men. So we can kind of see that you're doing that here. You're not, of course, you love fishing, but now you have this ministry where not only love fishing, but even on this gaming hobby or adventure or job, you're being a fisher of men, which is super awesome. And your wife, how does she feel about this? Is she a gamer too? Is she supportive? Is this like something where she's like, "Hey, my husband does this and it's awesome," or is she like, "Oh, he's just playing video games again?"
No, that's a great question. Thankfully, my wife has been the most supportive wife imaginable in all of this. She has really been my rock during all of this. She was kind of on the sidelines, I would say, not somebody who didn't like what I was doing. She just wasn't a part of it originally. She kind of was just the voice in the background, occasionally moderated on the channel, and that was kind of it. When we did decide like this is something we want to make a ministry, this is something we can see is changing lives. She really stepped into a role where she is now by my side. She's come onto the stream. She'll play video games with us. We play the It Takes Two. She'll play Fortnite every now and then. She has just been so supportive and really trying to join this ministry and be a part of it. Because one day she's gonna be the pastor's wife, and
Yeah.
she's gotta she's gonna know her way around the ministry and what we
Yeah.
stand for.
Is that your future plan to be like a full-time pastor or senior pastor?
Yes. What actually, I guess this is something a little bit new that maybe some of my viewers don't know about. The reason we're actually moving out of state later this year to pursue planting this church, making it a physical location, still doing live streaming, still trying to reach people online, but the plan is to plant the church into the new state where we're going to be moving to Colorado, and that's where we plan to set up shop and tell people about Jesus.
Not California, man? You could come over here.
No, no, unfortunately,
Yeah.
there's some amazing churches in California,
Yeah.
and we just we're kind of trying to get away from the heat, and I feel like
Yeah.
California is a little too close.
It is, man. It is. As we run out of time here, hilarious Zane. What's one bit of encouragement that you can leave the people who are still listening at this point? What's something you can tell these maybe Christians, maybe dads, but definitely gamers listening to this interview?
Just put your faith in Jesus Christ. I was somebody who, when I took that time away from God, I really tried to do everything by myself, and I feel like it really hurted my growth in spiritually, physically, mentally. When you put your faith in Jesus, everything is going to turn out okay. And coming back to God, restoring that relationship has been the best thing that I've ever done. Again, I met my wife just a year later after joining that church, that youth group, and having those men be part of my groomsmen. It was truly life changing, and I just want to inspire you guys that no matter what traumatic events, whatever life throws at you, if you fall back on Christ, you'll never be alone.
That's awesome, man. And then me too. I met my wife at Bible study at church. I proposed to her at church. We got married at church. And not three, but two of the guys who ran our life group, they were my groomsmen. So
Awesome.
if you need a wife or a groomsman,
Yeah, yeah.
go to church. No. Um, I like to put your channel in the description below. What's the best place to contact? Do you have a website or just a link to the TikTok for people who might not know you, Zane?
Yeah, I'm hilarious Zane on all platforms. If you guys are interested, you want to know more about our cause, we are actually also listed on our church's website. It is called Fireside here in Arizona. If you go into the Fireside website, I am listed on there as well. It's a ministry, our ministry missionaries, hilarious Zane. I have my own little tab, a little bit of splurb on there as well.
Awesome. That is so great. Well, thanks so much for giving us some of your very valuable time with all your streaming and everything you have to do, being a husband, and working, going to school. Man, you are on it. Just stay on fire, man. Keep at it. And for everyone out there, as always, be kind, use your mind, and game on.
Thank you.